Full, everybody. Chicago and Minnesota. Brian Leonard will be joining us to take apart that game, and he's going to look at San Fran and Philadelphia, a big matchup in the NFC on Sunday. Bryan Power, Andrew McInnis, Teddy covers. There's so much going on WagerTalk today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Brian Leonard joining us right off the bat. And Bri, nice to have you. I hope you didn't have the Chargers yesterday. I did. And Zay Flowers gave me nightmares. Cost me a winning day.
Yeah, I had the Chargers as well. And I just thought that was the perfect spot. Now I can give up on them the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I...
Don't you worry. Don't you worry, Prez. That'll be in bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books, like we do every Monday right here on WagerTalk Today. But before we look back, let's look forward. Right, there's a Monday night football game tonight. The Minnesota Vikings at home against the Chicago Bears. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Minnesota, 3-point home favorites, total sitting 43.5. What do you want to do with the hottest point spread team in the NFL facing off against their divisional rival?
Yeah, you got to admit the Vikings are still alive for the playoffs with a 6-5 record. Currently tied for 5th in the NFC with Seattle. Normally, they've got a really good home field advantage, but they're just 2-3 here this season. But with this being Monday Night Football, we can expect a big boost out of the home fans here. Minnesota's an excellent 6-2 on the season when facing conference opponents. They've done very well against divisional conference opponents. This is a team that, remember last year, everybody thought they were just playing out of their heads. Big season this year, they were going to drop off. They haven't. They continue to play pretty well. They're also peaking, having won 4 or 5 as of late, as you mentioned. Chicago's playing better now that their starting quarterback is back from injury. They're 2-3 the last 5 games, but Chicago's only 2-5 versus the NFC and only 1-5 when playing on the road. Minnesota won that previous meeting 19-13, as neither team really moved the ball consistently. I don't think either club managed 300 yards in that game, but that was a game Fields was hurt and was relieved by Badgett. So Cousins was actually the starter for Minnesota in that. So obviously we've got some different circumstances this time around. Minnesota had his 5-game winning streak snapped last Sunday against the Broncos, 21-20. And despite the money coming in on the underdog, we're coming up back the host here at this minimal number. I still think Minnesota's the better team than Chicago. But money's been coming in on Chicago. In fact, I saw that circa, if you want to bet Minnesota, you can get a -3 plus 100. So it would not surprise us if this line went down a little bit more. That's great. So I'm in no hurry to bet on Minnesota here. 3 I thought was a bargain. If it goes down farther than that, that's even better. But I like the Vikings here against Chicago. Chicago's playing better ball than they did earlier, but I just don't think they are going to win this game. And if I don't think they're going to win, I'm going to take the +3.
So I ran into a stat last night, and I don't know how valid it is. Half of it's valid. NFL favorites went 12-3 this past weekend so far. And I read something that said the most NFL favorites that have ever covered in a weekend was 13. Mm-hmm. In the history of point spreads and all that, has been 13. This is a game where clearly there's a sharp square divide. Clearly the pros are on Chicago. Clearly the Joes are on Minnesota. And clearly the favorites have covered all weekend long. Is this anything that concerns you when you look at the Bears side of the equation for tonight? For the Vikings side of the equation, being on the square side, being on the favorite side, being on, and believe you me, I'll take square sides all day long when I think they're right size. I have no problem. The pros, the Joes beat the pros more than people think. But in this instance, given the weekend that wasn't real good for the house, given that this really is a pretty strong, sharp square divide game, does that concern you?
Not really. Anytime something like that happens where you have a whole slate of games go under or a whole slate of games go over, favorites, underdogs, those are all independent events. I don't really care about any of that. I do understand what you're talking about with, the favorites being so good this week, and then money's coming in on the dog. Yeah, I could see that. It just doesn't affect my play at all. I handicap every game individually. But, yeah, there's money coming in on Chicago, and I agree. Chicago's playing better ball. I liked Fields. I think Fields is still a pretty good quarterback, and if they get some offensive linemen to block for him, and if he doesn't hold the ball all day, this is a different team. So I'm not giving up on Fields with the Chicago Bears. I think they're going to have a brighter future. But in this certain game right here, I like Minnesota. I like the situation of a Monday night game playing in the Dome Stadium. I've been to New Orleans and been to one of their stadiums. Loud as hell. So if you get a lot of fans in there, they're really pumped up, and they should be, because they're set really right now to make it to the playoffs. I think we're going to get a really good home field advantage tonight. And as I mentioned, Chicago, I believe, what they say, 1-5 on the road. They have not played well on the road. So give me Minnesota. I think the number's cheap, but it does make you go, as they say, because they're clearly the better team over the Chicago Bears.
Bryan, you used the word still when defining Justin Fields as a quarterback. Now, I am not suggesting that he won't be the greatest quarterback in the history of the world, but the word still, as in he's still a good quarterback. When was he a good? Why the word still? This is a disaster of a quarterback to date.
A lot of that comes from the offensive line and the people around him.
Please.
I'm not.
I couldn't.
I'm not. Yeah. I don't understand
You're wrong,
your reasoning,
Lawrence. You're flat out wrong on this take. And I know there's some takes you're right on. Justin Fields being a stiff is a take you're wrong on, in my opinion, and Brian's as well.
People always say, in my opinion, as if they're speaking on behalf of someone else. Guys, real quick, Brian Starr asks a great question. Do you feel obligated to find a pick in a sport such as college basketball if you have a bunch of college basketball clients and you don't like a play that day? Brian, do you feel obligated to find a play?
I don't think you really need to find a play when there's 100 games on the board. It's different than in the NFL.
Well, use any sport. He's using that as an example.
Yeah, I would say a little bit, because if a Sunday comes and I'm not having a good NFL season, I'll be totally honest with you about that. It's tough when you're not winning in a sport and people are looking for it. I'm not going to force anything. But where normally I may have 4 plays, I may only have 1 or 2. Yesterday I had 2. And, of course, they went on with 2. I had the Bengals and San Diego. Right. But normally, if I was seeing things well, I would have more plays than that. But I'm not going to force anything. For example, today I've got 3 plays up in the NHL, and that's all I have right now, at least at this early point of the day. I'm confident in my NFL plays. I'm winning in the NFL or NHL. So those come, you know how it is, Prez. You've done very well in the past in the NHL. The plays will just pop right out at you, and you could put up 3 or 4 and feel very confident on it. When it's a sport that you're struggling in, I'd rather not play them as many, or I've always put them out as 2% plays, because they're not as strong for me as they would be in other sports.
Well, I know for me, look, I got a lot of clients following my NHL, and rightfully so. There's I think 5 games tonight. I'm passing. So, Brian, I don't feel obligated to find a play. If you guys are betting your hard-earned money, if there's no play, there's no play.
Yeah.
Teddy, anything to add?
That's the point. I could care less. I mean, we love the clients, but I'm not making my picks based on what the clients want. I'm making my picks based on what the good bets are, in theory. And there are days where, when I'm seeing things clearly, like Brian, if I will put out a play that I have an opinion on, as opposed to I'll put out a bet that may not be as strong as something else. And when you're rolling, those are just as good. But in general, I'm never going to force a play in any sport.
No.
Especially if I'm not, and if you're running good, you're not forcing the play. If you're running crappy, I'll never force a play. You pass,
Right.
you come back and you come back the next day and then see if something pops at you.
Yeah, I haven't put out an NBA play in probably 3 weeks. It's
Well,
not
there you
something I was
go.
hot on. And I want to give my clients, just like everybody else, I want to give them the best. I don't care
Yeah.
what sport it's in, as long as you're winning. And we've been winning. So I'm very confident with the NHL right now. And I have 3 plays tonight. So
Bryan Leonard joining us, everyone. 3-pack in NHL. Brian, San Fran, Philadelphia. What a game yesterday. 59-yarder in torrential rain to take it to overtime. Amazing football game. Now they get to play San Francisco. San Fran is -2 to 2.5. How are you betting this game?
this is one of those games. Obviously, I'm not getting the number I wanted. I mean, I would have loved for the public to get involved here and Philadelphia be a 3-point favorite, but it's not going to happen because everything points to San Francisco here. Before he came on, Teddy talked about the playoff revenge for San Francisco. This is just a huge game when you take a look at what these teams have done on the season. Possible playoff seeding game for San Francisco. Right now, they're 8-3. And the Eagles are 10-1, but San Francisco's tied with Dallas and Detroit with that 8-3 record. So if they lose here, not only does Philadelphia basically clinch first, will be in very good shape to clinch all the way through in the NFC, and San Francisco will go to 8-4 and fall to the 4th seed. That's never a good thing. You always want to have some type of home field advantage. 49ers 6-1 versus conference opponents this year and 4-2 away from home. After that 3-game slide a few weeks ago, they've outscored the last 3 opponents 92-30. So you got a really hot team in San Francisco playing very well. And Philadelphia has got to be exhausted right now. They haven't played Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo with a trip to Dallas next week. I would never say playing a team that you're fighting for record-wise in the NFC would be a sandwich situation. But with Dallas coming up next week, maybe it is. Maybe we're not going to get the Philadelphia team we've gotten before. I mean, not only has it been tight games, it's been Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. It's just been Philadelphia's got to be exhausted right now. And despite the 10-1 record, the Eagles have only outscored the opposition this season by 64 points. 10-1 record, up 64 points on the year. They're the 2023 version of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion here. In comparison, San Francisco has outscored the opposition, despite the 8-3 record, by a whopping 140 net points. 76 more points than the opposition in Philadelphia. The public will be on the Eagles here, no doubt about it. I think the wise guys will be on San Francisco. The Eagles pulled out that overtime win over the Bulls yesterday on Sunday and in comeback fashion. No way will they be able to match the intensity of the 49ers this week. Playoff revenge for San Francisco. Better season to date by far. Point differential at 8-3. They cannot afford this loss. This is a good play, in my opinion. Before it gets to 3, play San Francisco.
So as we were talking on air, or before we went on air, I talked about the playoff revenge, and Dan Alexander came in and gave us some thoughts about the offensive line matchup last year. Obviously, San Fran didn't have a quarterback in the playoff game, but their offensive line got destroyed by Philly's defensive front in that ball game. Is that a concern for you? Because we look at the Eagles now, their defensive front remains a strength.
Yep, it sure is. And anytime you play the Eagles, that's your main concern, is being able to keep the opposition from getting in your backfield before the running back can get out. It's always a concern, but we knew that ahead of time. We knew that coming into the season, that the Eagles' defensive line is elite. I think San Francisco, you can tell by the way they played all season long, they're not going to be afraid of them. And right now, San Francisco's playing really well. I think the Eagles, as good as they're playing, they've been very fortunate as of late. And that's one of the things we look for. We look for a team who has been winning but doesn't deserve it. And just all you have to do is look back at the Denver Broncos yesterday. Is just about everybody and their brother were going against the Broncos. Oh, look at the 8 turnovers the last 3 games, plus 8 turnovers. They found a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. Cleveland blew that game, did not play well, and I don't want to be back in the Browns this week. I'll tell you that, because there were so many injuries in that game, and they're already hurting in that regard.
Yep.
So Cleveland may be a team you're looking to fade, and I don't see a lot of those guys coming back from those injuries.
Bryan Leonard, everybody. Every Monday, same spot. One of the best guests we have. Bryan, what do you have to promote?
Right now, just the 3 plays up in hockey. I've still got college basketball to look at. And but you'll get everything 3 plays in in the NHL for only $29. Number 1 historically for the entire time at WagerTalk. Number 2 this season in the NHL. Did split yesterday. Expect to sweep the board today. Once again, $29 gets you all 3 plays for Monday.
Bryan frickin' Leonard. Awesome stuff. Teddy Covers, before we get to what most people consider the best segment of the week, your 6 Bs, I want to talk about Cyber Monday, the special we have up. It does end today. It is a 90-day all-access pass for $47 per week. You head over to WagerTalk. You click on the deals button and there it sits, but ultimately you guys can go to any handicapper you want. It's on their page. For $597, you get 90-day all access pass. And I mean, Teddy, great time to buy you, brother. Your numbers, I mean, just an absolute huge shout out. It wasn't 2 weeks ago where you couldn't get a win if they gave you half the W, and now you can't find a loss. You're on an 8-1 run in your last 3 days, 22-15 since November 15th. I'm reading your freaking promo.
Look at the promo better. 22 and how many?
What? You know what, dude?
22 and 5, bro. It's not 22 and
guys,
15.
22 and 5. I screwed up.
Big difference.
I did. My fault.
That's all.
17 and 2 NBA run. A 17 and 2 NBA run. That's
it should
ridiculous.
be better. I'm mad at myself. I'm legitimately mad at myself because that run should be better.
It's time for your 6 Bs, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been running pretty good the last couple of weeks, 22 and 5 with the last 27 releases. Let's talk a little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. A recap of what just happened in football action this past weekend. And the bad beats weren't that bad this weekend. You had maybe Tennessee 27, minus 27 versus Vandy. And they completely dominated 45-10 going in the fourth. And then Heupel empties his bench. Vandy's offense comes alive, back-to-back touchdowns, a missed field goal for the Vols in between the back-to-back touchdown, and then Tennessee ends the game on a grinding 17-play drive that ends in another field goal. They win 48-24. 24 points? Not enough. Tough if you had Tennessee. 2-point conversions, the most important point spread play in football. No doubt about it. Boise, minus 7 versus Air Force. They lead 17-3 early, and that was pretty much it for Boise. Air Force controlled much of the rest of the game. Air Force went for 2 early. They were down 17-12. First drive of the third quarter, they missed. So it's a 5-point game instead of a 3-point game, which mattered when the Boise kicker hit a 52-yarder in the Rocky Mountain wind late in the fourth. Boise wins by 8. If you had Air Force, that was no joy on that side, the 2-point conversion being the key there, as well as a 52-yarder at the end. Jets first half, plus 6.5, total 20.5. They're down 10-6, closing seconds. We've all seen the highlight. They throw the Hail Mary down to the goal line. Oops, it's a 99-yard pick six the other way, 17-6 at halftime. Dolphins and over instead of Jets and under. Jets and under bettors not amused with that final play of the first half. And, of course, last night on Sunday Night Football, probably the worst beat of the weekend, the Chargers +3/+3.5. It's a 13-10 game. It's inside 2 minutes. You have L.A., you're just fine. Baltimore needs 1 first down. They get the first down, a handoff to Zay Flowers, and he's supposed to get the first down and hit the turf. Instead, he ran 37 yards into the end zone. Baltimore wins by 10. No fun for L.A. backers there. When it comes to bad bets, let's see. On Friday, it was all Nebraska money. Iowa's nothing to play for. Nebraska needs the win. I already clinched their spot. Doesn't matter. plus 1.5 to -3 for Nebraska. Huskers no better at moving the football versus Iowa than against anyone else. 13-10 Hawkeyes. That's exactly the final score they'll be hoping for against Michigan on Saturday night. Baylor's injuries galore. West Virginia -5.5 to -13. Heavy steam all week on the Mountaineers. Who's going to play quarterback for the Bears? Didn't matter. 34-31 final. Books got to keep all of that West Virginia money. On Turkey Day, the Lions from -7.5 to -9, -9.5. There were 10s out there. They lost outright to the Packers. That was a bad bet. And I still can't figure out why the wise guys love the Pats off a bye against the Giants. They were bet up to -4.5 in that game as road favorites. Obviously, we saw the missed field goal at the end. 10-7 loss for New England. Hard to cover -4.5 when you only score 7. To me, Patriots bets as bad as it gets. Bad for the books. There was a ton. Books got slapped around a little bit. I didn't even use everything I could have for this segment. Friday, TCU, Oklahoma. That total got steamed up to 63-67. It was a shootout of the weekend. Oklahoma got there by themselves. 69-45 final. Half point. The worst of it didn't matter there. Nobody bet Stanford. Nobody bet Stanford against Notre Dame. Irish from -21.5 to -26. Stanford in a big first quarter and nothing else. Irish won by 33. Wise guy special on Saturday was bad for the book. San Jose State +4 down to +1 at UNLV. The Spartans won that game wire to wire. The Rebels still hosting the Mountain West Championship game this weekend. Kansas -3 to -7.5 Cincinnati. They won that game 49-16. That was bad for the house. And a couple of middles. Purdue opened -3 against Indiana, closed -6.5, and the game lands right in between. UCF opened as low as -11.5 versus Houston, closed -16. They won by 14. A couple of middles there. On Turkey Day, bad for the books. Nobody bet the Commanders at Dallas. Dallas from -10.5 to -13.5. There were even a 14 or 2 out there. Bad fourth quarter for the books. 20-10 became 45-10. That was ugly for the house. And let's not forget last night's Bills-Eagles game ends up with another middle. Bills +3.5, widely available. Eagles -2.5, widely available. Philly walks off in overtime. No extra point. Game lands exactly 3. That, too, not a great result for the house. There you have it. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Eddie, man, I was all over. I was everywhere in your segment. I was one of the idiots that had West Virginia. And I had the Chargers last night against Baltimore. I actually thought it was a great spot for the Chargers. Brian mentioned it at the top of the show. I thought they had a chance to win the game outright. I think a lot changed on that opening drive, and I know that sounds absurd, but there was a roughing the passer missed call that would have put the Chargers at the goal line and first down. Instead, the call went the other way, and they were kicking a field goal. And those small things, and people don't they laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, Prez, how could that have changed the entire complexion of the game?" That's how sports work. And I really do feel like that changed the way that game looked on top of it. Zay Flowers. I'm curious, man. What do you think? What do you think Harbaugh said to Zay? Was he happy? Yeah, way to go, touchdown. Or you do that again and you are benched. What goes on there?
So the only way they can lose the game, the only chance they have to lose the game is if Flowers scores. When Flowers scores, now you're giving a tired defense, you're forcing back in the field, someone can get hurt. I would expect that Harbaugh wasn't amused with Flowers' run to the end zone. But in terms of, punishment, how do you punish a guy for scoring a touchdown?
No, yeah. You say do it again and you're benched. Teddy, before we bring on Bryan Powers, and I know I've spoken about your ridiculous run of late, but I got to mention me right now. I have my first 5% NBA play of the year up tonight. It's I want to give you guys perspective. This is a first half play, and my first half record, forget that I'm on a 10-2 in my last 12, okay? 10-2 in your last 12. You got lucky, Prez. You had a good little 2-week run. Put aside that I'm on a 16-4 run in first half NBA bets. Okay, Prez, over a medium period of time, you got lucky. You won 16 and you lost 4. Put that aside. In 2 years, I have won 32 plays, first half NBA bets, and lost 12. 32 and 12. So my short term is 10 and 2, my medium term is 16 and 4, and my long term is 32 and 12. This is as strong a play as I will put out. It goes tonight, and the reason I'm telling you guys this now is because I'm seeing people buy the play, and I just got a promotion, a promo code to save you guys $10. Please use promo code NBA10, NBA10, and you get $10 off of that play. Bryan Power joining us, and you too, my brother, are running hot. Congratulations.
As 5% play on the Bills. Teddy talked about that middle in that last segment, had the plus 3.5, bet it early in the week. So that was, needless to say, a 3+ hour sweat, but at least we ended up on the right side.
Dude, I was freaking out. Brian, I was at a poker tournament. I was at a poker tournament with 40 guys. I had the game on. I'm all over Buffalo. I was losing my shit. And I want to tell you, the 59-yard field goal that took it to overtime, at the very same moment that happened. This is totally true story. At the very same moment that happened, I had a pair of queens, and I went all in, and I got called by nines, and the guy ran a 7-8 jack flop and a 10 river. And the 10 hit at the exact same moment that field goal went in. So I got to watch the overtime, not being in a poker tournament. Okay. St. Mary's -4.5 versus Utah, my brother. Go.
Yeah. Late night game here on the West Coast, and we've got to ask ourselves, St. Mary's, who is the real St. Mary's? Was it the team that absolutely annihilated Davidson its last time out? Or was it a team that had 3 consecutive low-scoring losses before that? So against Davidson, the Gales put up 89 points. And that was a pleasant surprise because the previous 3 games, they failed to break 60 against Weber State, San Diego State, and Xavier. They shot 40%, 34%, 25% overall in those losses, 18%, 25%, 21% from 3. But then against Davidson, what do? 52.3% overall, 15-31 from behind the arc. Only attempted 8 free throws in that game. So I look at that, and if there's any shooting regression, I think we can make some points up at the free throw line. You would expect at home the Gales to have more than 8 attempts tonight. Defensively, we know what this program's all about. They allowed just 57.8 points per game this year, 39th in efficiency per Ken Pom. The home court advantage, always strong. They've won 34 of 37 here. Let's not forget, they went off as a favorite in each of those 3 losses as well. This is a team that has the odds makers' respect. Utah, they just gave up 91 to St. John's. Before that, they lost to Houston. Houston, obviously one of the best teams in the country. The Utes trailed by 14, as many as 14 in that game. And just some trends, I'll round things out for you. When Utah takes on a team allowing 64 points or less on the year, I mentioned St. Mary's only giving up 57.8. 2-11 against the number are the Utes. 7-15 ATS last 22 on the road. 9-19 ATS last 28 as a dog. I'm a believer in St. Mary's, Teddy. This number did hit 5.5 early this morning when I was waking up and breaking everything down. I would lay the current price, no problem. I expect a comfortable win and cover for the Gales.
So early in the season, I respect the college basketball betting marketplace a lot, as much as I do in any sport. And we're seeing that the money's coming for Utah right now. I mean, very clearly, there was a 6 at Circle last night. 5.5 this morning, down to 5, down to 4.5. And this isn't, the public isn't moving the line on it. This is all sharp money coming for the Utes. So first, let me ask you: do you believe that the sharp money in college basketball is strong early in the season, and are you comfortable fading it?
Absolutely, I do, and it was something that gave me pause when I saw the buyback come in on Utah. But when I analyze this specific game, what I think we're seeing is there were a lot of sharp people that were very high on the St. Mary's team coming into the year. And what happened? They got burned 3 games in a row. And I think we're seeing kind of a residual effect from there. Like I said at the Open, we're going to, I guess, learn tonight who is the real St. Mary's. Was it the team that bludgeoned Davidson? Was it the team that lost 3 in a row outright as a favorite? I am going to go with the preseason analysis here. And I think at home, where, again, St. Mary's is just tremendous, generally speaking, 34-37, they've won. I'll lay it. It's especially, I like the short number, to be honest with you. I like laying 4.5 a lot more than I do 6, obviously.
Bryan Power joining us, everyone. Key to Vegas writes, Prez, you ever just bet stuff and not watch it at all? I can speak on behalf of Teddy, Bryan, and myself. If we watched every single game we bet, we would have no life. Literally no life. Teddy would look like Carmine. Bryan like Marco. Me, I like Brad Pitt. Bryan, Texas -14 versus Oklahoma State college football this Saturday. How are we betting this game?
Oklahoma State, man. God bless Oklahoma State for getting to the conference championship weekend, but this is not even close to the second best team in the Big 12. They, I don't think, are a top 4 team in the Big 12. That's why they're huge underdogs on Saturday. And I'll give credit. I'll tip my cap to Mike Gundy. Things were not looking good when they lost 33-7 in Stillwater, South Alabama. They lose the Big 12 opener to Iowa State. But then what happens? All of a sudden, they settle on Bowman at quarterback. They start feeding the rock to Gordon. They go on a 5-0 straight-up ATS run, including the key win, and this is why they're playing this weekend. They beat Oklahoma in the Bedlam game that gave them the tiebreak. Oklahoma State, 7-1 its last 8. You may be wondering, BP, why are you ripping this team if they're 7-1 their last 8 games? There's been a lot of fortunate variance during that run, Prez, both in terms of 4th downs, in terms of turnovers. What was the one loss for the Pokes in that stretch? They lost by 42 at UCF, and they almost didn't get here because this past weekend, they're hosting BYU, one of the 4 Big 12 newbies this year. Those teams all struggled with jumping up in class and conference. BYU is up 24-6 at the half. And it's the second game in a row Oklahoma State fell down by 2 touchdowns. The other one was to Houston, who just fired its head coach, Dana Holgerson. It was the 3rd largest comeback in school history on Saturday for Oklahoma State. Second week in a row, like I said, they overcome a 2-touchdown deficit. They've never done that before in the history of this program. Texas, they still have high hopes. They want to make the college football playoff. I don't know how much that committee values style points and running up the score, Teddy. But we saw Texas run up the score against Texas Tech Friday night, 57-7. I think Texas is out for blood on Saturday. These teams did not meet in the regular season, oh, by the way. But Texas, to me, is by far the better team. And I know this number's gotten hit early, and I would still lay it, believe it or not, even though we're at 14. I just think the Longhorns are way, way better than Oklahoma State. And that's the play.
Is this the best Texas team of the last 10 years?
The last 10 years. So that would, Colt McCoy, that was like late 2000, like 8-ish, 9. Yeah, so probably would be, for sure. I think.
Is this the weakest Oklahoma State team of the last 10 years? Let's call it last 8 years.
They were probably weaker last year. They were weaker last year, Oklahoma State.
So here's the series history. Oklahoma State 41-34. Oklahoma State 32-24. Texas 41-34 in overtime. Texas 36-30. Oklahoma State 38-35. Oklahoma State 13-10. Oklahoma State 49-31. Oklahoma State 30-27. The last time Texas was able to beat Oklahoma State by more than one score was 2014. The series history says these two teams are tight. Every matchup like that way. Why is this matchup going to be different?
I'm going to trust my numbers and my beloved power ratings, which I know you're such a fan of, Teddy, all the time. I just look, Oklahoma State to me, I'll blow your mind. I'll blow your mind with this. I think Oklahoma State is closer to the 8th best team in the Big 12 than they are the 2nd. That's just how little respect I have for Oklahoma State. I had BYU on Saturday, by the way.
Bryan, outstanding stuff, man. You tell Teddy. What do you got to promote?
We're going to have a Monday Night Football prop. We're going to have NBA. We're going to have college hoops that'll be added within the hour. NBA this season has been fantastic. I'm actually number 1 neck and neck with a very sharp individual named Teddy Covers. for that top spot. So we're happy with NBA. We're happy with college hoops. 15-9 run in college hoops, and long term we're way up 98, 75, and 3 in college hoops. So we're feeling good in basketball, feeling good in the NFL. Won 13 of the last 17 days overall, 70% the last 2 weeks in the NFL, and we killed it in bowl season last year, hitting 67%. So please, if you would be so kind, or if you are interested, go over to my page and get an all-access subscription. We'll hopefully win you some money across the board.
Bryan Power, thanks for joining us, brother. Teddy, it's time for your big game breakdown. Then Andrew McInnis, who, like always, will only have about 5 minutes.
Sure, big game breakdown time. And I do want to mention that all sports, all access special right now for the next 3 months, you're going to get what? Less than, what is it, $8 a day? $9 a day. We like, you guys like $9 Mondays. This is $9 a day, less than $9 a day for the next 3 months. Every play, every day. No coupon code needed. Just check it out at WagerTalk.com. Let's talk Florida State against Louisville. And here's one where I am going to be fading the sharp money that's been pouring in on Louisville over the course of the last 24 hours. This line opened as high as, there were 6 and 6.5s out there. Well, now it's down to 2.5 for Florida State. Total sitting at 49. The betting markets think that the Seminoles aren't going to be able to score here, and Louisville is very live. And of course, certainly you're looking at a Louisville team that necessarily didn't play their best game last time out. You know, they gave up a kickoff return touchdowns, have a fair of pummels that ended up resulting in Kentucky points. They gave up multiple chunk plays on defense, and guess what? It was their 5th straight loss to Kentucky in the battle for the Governor's Cup. Not exactly a positive momentum situation. Braum got Purdue to the Big Ten title game last year, and then they lost and failed to cover as big underdogs against Michigan. It's comparable price range. They were 16-point. And again, they were 10-1. Now they're 10-2. Before the Kentucky game last week, quote, "This is the most important game of the rest of the season." And that was an all-out war start to finish in that contest. Ended up losing at the very end. We look at the teams that they've been covering against, you know, or maybe the teams they haven't. It's surprising. Yeah, they had the cover against Notre Dame. They beat Miami in a game Miami beat themselves. But we haven't asked this team to step up in class a whole lot. I'm not convinced that Louisville's athletes are as good. We look at Florida State, who won last year's game. You know, by the way, Tate Rodemaker led the Seminoles to the win in that game after Jordan Travis left the game with an injury. I know he wasn't great against the Gators last week, but on the road in a tough environment, Florida State dug deep, found a way to win, found a way to get the money. All right. They were down 12-0 in that game. They won 24-15. You look at the NFL talent for Florida State, all over the place. You know, Jared Verse, the edge rusher, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Gene Bell, Trey Benson, Akeem Dent could get drafted. It's not like Louisville can match that talent. You know, Jermaine, the defensive tackle, Jermaine Lewis, maybe a 2nd rounder. Thrash, maybe a 5th or 6th rounder. I'm not sold on Louisville hanging within a field goal of Florida State, plain and simple. Give me the Seminoles minus the points. It's cheap right now. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Andrew McInnis joining us. And Andrew, the reason we always put you on Mondays at the end is because, well, you're quick. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, I guess sometimes all that matters is the winners, right? The result that happens afterwards. We talk about analysis. You can dance it up all you want, but you got to get the win. So that's what I'll try and do.
Well, you got 2 bets to give out for us tonight. Let's start with your prop bet in the Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I think I have a new vow to myself to only come on WagerTalk Today and give out unders as far as the prop betting market's concerned. So, look, I mean, these primetime games and the audience wants to see more unders. So what I've chosen to do is pick under Khalil Herbert on rushing and receiving. And guys, for the record, I don't do too many of these rushing and receiving combo bets, but whenever I do them, I'm doing the under. And I think that a lot of times when you get these numbers here, you're getting a guy that mainly rushes or just mainly is involved in the receiving game. So you're kind of just getting that nice little extra number, even though someone's barely even receiving the ball. And Khalil Herbert is a perfect example of that. You know, I don't want to look at just his under on rushing. but you're going to give me an extra, let's say 13, 14 yards to throw in the receiving, I think is a nice little discount there. Last game, just two receptions for 6 yards. His last time out, 0 receptions. Game before that, he had 19 receiving yards. And this is actually a Vikings team that might surprise people. Over the last 3 weeks, they're the number 3rd ranked team against the run. On the season, number 7 against the run in the entire league. And I know Khalil Herbert's been upgraded to the number 1 guy due to injuries in the running back room for the Bears, but I feel like we'll see Justin Fields have to run the ball himself quite a bit, throw the ball obviously a ton. I think the Vikings can put up points and force the Bears into having to make some plays through the air. And I simply just believe that even if Khalil Herbert has a great day on the ground, this to me is a number that is just a little bit too big, and he's not really going to contribute to this through the air with the receiving game. He's gone under this number in 4 of his last 6 games, so I'll go under on rushing and receiving for Khalil Herbert.
When Justin Fields was in the lineup early in the season, he was dumping off to Herbert all the time. He had, I think, 8 targets the first 2 weeks, 60 receiving yards during that span. Do you worry at all with Fields back in the lineup that we'll see the dump off passes to Herbert and that being a problem in getting up and over the total?
Yeah, those are the worst, because you think that Justin Fields could just do it himself, right? He's athletic enough. Why dump it off to a guy 2 feet next to you when you can just run the ball yourself? But we always talk about it on Prop It Up, Andy Lang and myself, that it's pretty much just DJ Moore and nobody else, which is why he does dump it off to running backs quite often. But in this situation and what I've seen recently, I am going off recency bias. He's just rushing it. And I just think this number's too high. I think that even if he did get a couple of receptions, Teddy, he's going to have to feed some of his receivers. I think DJ Moore will have a good day, just like he does most weeks, it seems. And again, a lot of it has to do with the rushing game for the other guys, and also Justin Fields. If Fields runs the ball, I think 6-7 times, I feel like that takes away a lot from Khalil Herbert.
Andrew McInnis. Andrew, Ottawa Senators, you've got a prop bet for us and promote as well. No follow-up from Teddy. We got the daily presidential address right after. It'll only be a minute.
So only a handful of games on tap for tonight in the NHL, but I do have one best bet, a rare 4% play for me in the NHL and my clients. You guys can grab that over at WagerTalk.com. Or you can join me on that great Cyber Monday deal, $47 for a week or each week, and you're getting all sports. So NFL, NBA, college hoops, UFC. I'm doing a lot of different sports. I'm going to take Ottawa, the Senators, team total over 3.5 goals here. Right now, it's a pretty similar price on the money line, but when this team wins games, they get at least 4 goals. And the best part about betting team totals is that even if they lose the game and score 4 goals, you are still a winner. This is a team that went over to Sweden as far as the NHL Global Series. They went 2-0. They beat Detroit. They beat Minnesota. Their offense is clicking right now. They're simply a team, guys, that I don't trust their defense. So when I'm interested in backing the Senators, I don't want anything to do with their money line because I just don't trust their back end. But they're top 6 right now. Their best players are playing very well. And we're seeing this Florida team really struggle defensively. And Sergei Bobrovsky is about a middle-of-the-pack goaltender for the Florida Panthers. He's not making any saves above what he's expected to as far as all the analytical numbers are saying. So this is an opportunity to bet on a Senators team. They lost their first game back after their Sweden trip. I expect them to get back on track and play well at home tonight to get me 4 goals. And it's a great plus 115 price. Thank you, guys.
I love that. I love that bet, Andrew. Thanks for joining us today, my friend. Be well. Guys, we did get over 125 likes. It's time for the daily presidential address. Okay, so I've got 2 NHL plays to give out, and I'll also let everybody know right off the bat, one of my circa picks is on the Chicago Bears tonight. I just don't like it enough to release it. I'm not betting it, but it was my lean on the game. And I am 3-1 in my circa picks going into tonight. Okay, guys, I got a 5% play up in NBA. It's my first 5% play of the year. It's a first half bet. I am 32-12 in 2 years of these bets. So make sure to grab that play. It comes with a promo code, $10 off. NBA 10. That's NBA 10. Use that over at my page. As for your NFL, as for your 2 free bets for today's daily presidential address, real quick, And I don't love any of these. I'm not betting these plays, but I do lean towards the over in the Boston-Columbus game and the under in the Calgary-Vegas game. Teddy, your opening line report is in 15 minutes. Great doing the show with you. We'll see you tomorrow. Take us home, bro.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Monday edition of Wager Talk Today. Like Lauren said, we'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Please stay tuned right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel for the NFL opening line report. Myself and Drew Martin at the top of the hour. Between now and tomorrow's show, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers.